Have you ever sat at the dinner table with your family and felt invisible? Not ignored in an obvious way, not rejected or punished, but simply unnoticed. Your voice barely leaves an echo. Your presence feels weightless, almost like a shadow brushing past someone else's reality. Sometimes, it isn't conflict or overt neglect that causes this. It is subtle, quiet, imperceptible. You are present, yet somehow absent. A ghost in your own home. This is not a rare feeling. Many people experience this quiet ache, not in the world at large, but in the very spaces where acknowledgement should be unconditional, their family. Why does this happen? Why do some people carry the heavy, lingering sense of being unseen long after childhood has passed? Imagine a child growing up in a household where attention is limited. Perhaps the parents are constantly busy, distracted by work or their own emotional struggles. Maybe their achievements go uncelebrated, or their concerns brushed aside. Or perhaps the environment is hypercritical, focusing more on mistakes than accomplishments. In any of these scenarios, the child receives a subtle but powerful message. You do not matter enough to be fully noticed. Your inner world is not significant. Over time, the brain begins to adapt. Expressing emotions becomes risky. Speaking up can feel futile or even unsafe. The child learns to shrink, to fade into the background, to survive unnoticed. In psychological terms, this is often referred to as emotional invisibility coping, a survival strategy that allows the child to navigate emotionally neglectful spaces without overwhelming anxiety or conflict, but at a cost. Consider Emily. As a young girl, she would excitedly recount her day to her parents, only to receive a distracted nod. Her achievements, her stories, her worries, none seemed to leave a mark. By adulthood, Emily had become an observer rather than a participant. At family gatherings, she would smile at the right moments, laugh at the right jokes, yet still feel unseen. She had learned, through repetition, that fading into the background was safer than asserting herself. This adaptation, while protective, leaves a subtle but lasting impact on the psyche. Children who are unseen develop a profound sensitivity to social cues. They notice the unspoken emotions in a room, the tiny shifts in tone, the gestures others overlook. They become observers, guardians of the emotional climate, attuned to the feelings of others in ways that most people never learn. This sensitivity is both a gift and a burden. While it fosters empathy and awareness, it also reinforces the sense that their own presence is expendable. In some families, this invisibility is unintentional, a byproduct of stress, distraction, or parenting style. In others, it may be more persistent, reinforced by patterns of criticism, comparison, or neglect. In both cases, the child internalizes a belief that their feelings, desires, and even existence must be muted to survive. A quiet, internal narrative develops. To be safe, I must not take up space. To matter, I must remain small. Even small interactions can perpetuate this sense of invisibility. A birthday celebrated half-heartedly. A story told at dinner that is barely acknowledged. A parent too distracted to respond. A sibling overshadowing accomplishments. These small moments accumulate, leaving the child with a persistent ache, the unshakable sense that they are always slightly invisible, even among people who love them. Yet invisibility is not just about absence. It teaches subtle skills. Those who grow up unseen often become careful observers, capable of reading emotions and social dynamics with extraordinary accuracy. They notice subtleties that others miss, perceive tensions before they are spoken, and anticipate needs that others fail to express. In this way, invisibility, while painful, also cultivates a unique depth of perception and empathy. But there is also a quiet loneliness that accompanies this awareness. Feeling invisible is not the same as being alone. It is being surrounded by people, yet remaining unseen, unacknowledged, and emotionally disconnected. It is the paradox of intimacy without recognition, connection without validation. This paradox follows children into adolescence and adulthood, shaping not only their self-perception, but also the way they interact with the world. Some children learn to speak less, laugh softly, and shrink their personalities in public spaces. Others develop a hyper-awareness of their surroundings, adjusting behavior constantly to avoid conflict or rejection. Still others immerse themselves in solitary worlds, books, music, imagination, spaces where they can exist fully without the constant reminder of invisibility. These coping mechanisms, born out of necessity, lay the foundation for adult patterns of behavior, relationships, and emotional expression. Even at a young age, there is often a sense of duality. The child may crave recognition, yet simultaneously fear it, anticipating that any attempt to assert themselves will be met with neglect or dismissal. They learn early that invisibility is both a shield and a prison, a strategy that keeps them safe but also limits their ability to feel fully present in their own lives. This duality extends beyond the family. Children who are unseen at home often carry the same patterns into school, friendships, and later adult relationships. They hesitate to assert themselves, suppress desires, and avoid emotional risk. Their presence is quiet but observant, reflective but restrained. And yet, they remain intensely alive internally, a rich, vivid inner life, often unnoticed by the world outside. In essence, the psychology of feeling like a ghost in one's own family begins early, rooted in subtle forms of neglect, distraction, or emotional unavailability. It teaches the mind to adapt, to shrink, to survive, but it also cultivates an extraordinary depth of awareness, empathy, and understanding. Childhood invisibility is both wound and gift, shaping the trajectory of identity, relationships, and inner life in ways that echo across decades. As childhood fades into adulthood, the patterns of invisibility learned early often follow quietly, like shadows that stretch longer in dim light. The lessons of fading, of shrinking to survive, do not disappear, they adapt. Adults who once felt unseen at home may excel outwardly, performing flawlessly at work, nurturing friendships, or supporting partners, all the while carrying a private, persistent ache, the lingering awareness that they are often unnoticed, even where they long to be recognized. As we move into reflection, it becomes clear that feeling like a ghost in one's own family is not just a matter of childhood pain or adult patterns. It is a profound lens through which life is experienced. The psychology of invisibility shapes not only relationships, but also the way a person perceives themselves, the world, and the very nature of presence. Even when unseen by others, the person who has learned to fade exists fully in their internal world. Thoughts, emotions, reflections, and dreams continue unabated. They carry a rich consciousness that rarely manifests outwardly, but pulses vibrantly within. The quiet observer sees nuances, feels subtleties, and understands emotional landscapes that most people overlook. This awareness, born from invisibility, becomes a defining feature of their existence, a secret depth only they can inhabit. Reflection invites philosophical questions. What does it mean to exist? Is existence validated only through acknowledgement from others, or can presence be claimed internally? When someone has spent a lifetime feeling unseen, they come to understand a subtle truth. Life's value is not contingent on recognition. Even when overlooked, their experiences, emotions, and inner life remain real, meaningful, and profoundly human. Consider the paradox of invisibility. It wounds, leaving a persistent ache of longing for recognition. Yet it simultaneously cultivates extraordinary perception, empathy, and resilience. The experience of feeling like a ghost in one's own family is both painful and illuminating. It teaches subtlety, observation, and emotional intelligence. It shapes resilience, depth, and empathy. And it reminds us, those who feel unseen possess a rare ability to reflect deeply, to perceive nuance, and to experience life fully, even when unrecognized. Perhaps the most enduring lesson is simple yet profound. Existence is not dependent on acknowledgement. Being present, being aware, and being conscious of one's own inner life is enough. Even ghosts carry light. Even the unseen hold depth. And even those who have spent a lifetime fading quietly in the background have an inner richness that is undeniably real, profoundly human, and eternally meaningful. In the end, Invisibility is not a sentence. It is a perspective, a pattern, and a lens through which life can be understood. It is a reminder that presence is not only about being noticed. It is about inhabiting one's own inner world with awareness, grace, and quiet strength. Even in the shadows, life persists. Even in silence, consciousness thrives. And those who have been unseen in their own families remain fully alive.